The other type is the synovial joint. And technically the synovial joint, these are, when we say joint, in general, we can think of the knee, of the elbow, of the shoulder. So that's what we are referring to in most of the cases when we say joint. All of these big joints are synovial joints. So these are the most big ones in our body, and we can think that these are the joints that allowing our movement. So that's why we are going to focus in this chapter on the synovial joints. The main thing about these joints is that they are separated by fluid-filled joint cavity. So we have a joint cavity. We did not see any joint cavity in the fibrous or cartilaginous. So the synovial joints are the only joints with the joint cavity, and this is filled with the fluid. This fluid is called the synovial fluid. All of these joints are diarthrotic, which means that they are freely movable and they are allowed like wide range of movement. So we are talking about all the limb joints, and in addition to that, they have bursa and tendon sheath, which we are going to talk about. And these are classified into 6 different types of joints. Now, here there are a few things that we can see in all of the synovial joints. So these are the structural features of these joints. The first one, that these joints are located within a capsule. So this is the joint and this is the capsule. And this is called the articular capsule. This is a fibrous connective tissue, dense irregular connective tissue. And if you remember, we said dense irregular would allow dealing with a stretch or stress or pressure from multiple directions. So this will stabilize the joint significantly. And this capsule is very important since it's also connecting to the two bones together. Now, this is one. This is one. The second feature, that the end of the bones are covered with articular cartilage. So the friction between the bones are prevented by the articular cartilage. Most of the time this is hyaline cartilage. So the bone ends are always covered with hyaline cartilage. The third feature, that the inner surface of the capsule, this line, okay, the inner surface of the capsule is something called synovial membrane. So there is the presence of this synovial membrane. This synovial membrane is responsible for providing or creating the synovial fluid that we talked about. And this fluid is important because it helps in lubricating the area here, and thus reduce the friction between the bones. Also, this is the medium that all of the nutrient, all of the oxygen, all of the waste are dissolved into this area. However, this area does not contain any blood vessels. So here in this area or within this cavity does not contain, or this membrane does not contain any blood vessels. We can think of this synovial fluid as a filtrate of the plasma, of the blood plasma. Okay, so this is the third feature. The fourth feature is the presence of ligaments in the synovial joints. And these ligaments, we can say that we have two types of ligaments based on their location to the capsule. So the first type is something called extrinsic ligament or extracapsular ligaments. These ligaments are extending outside the capsule, and technically these are the ones that are connecting the bones together, however outside the capsule. So these are extrinsic ligaments. So these are outside the capsule. Okay, then there is another type, which is the intracapsular ligament. These are the one inside the capsule. Intracapsular ligament. These are inside the capsule, meaning that they are within the cavity. You can think of the BCL and ACL in the knee, which we are going to see. But for now, just understand that there are two types of ligaments. One is outside, the other one is inside. So these are, we can think of them, these are the features of the synovial joint. We said there is a cavity, there is a capsule, there is synovial membrane, there is articular cartilage, and then there are the two types of ligaments. Now, along with that, there are other structures that are associated with synovial joints. These are not part of the synovial joints. However, they are closely associated with them. So most of the time, when there is a synovial joint, you might find these structures. The first one is something called bursa. And we can think of the bursa as little bags filled with lubricating liquid or like a synovial fluid. And these bursa are located, as you can see here, for example, here. These bursa are located between the muscles, between the tendons and the bones. Okay, so we can find them between the ligaments or the muscle tendons and the bones. And their idea is to prevent friction between the bones and these structures. So this is one, the bursa. And the second thing is the tendon sheath. For the tendon sheath, from its name, it's a sheath surrounding the tendons. The tendons is what connect muscles to bones or other structures. Okay, so these are wrapping around the tendons, and they are serving the same purpose, reducing friction or smoothing the motion of the tendon during muscle contractions. So both the bursa and the tendon sheath kind of serving the same purpose, reducing friction. Now, why do we need them? Because for tendons and ligaments, usually these are made out of dense, regular connective tissue. And usually dense regular connective tissue have very limited regeneration ability. So you can think of these materials are expensive. Our body can't replace them or can't fix them as easily as it should be. So in order to protect them, we will have the bursa and the tendon sheath. These are cheap materials that can be replaced easily. Okay? So that's the concept of these bursa and the tendon sheath. This is just the definitions of ligaments and tendons. Please go over them and know them. I will stop here. In the coming part, we will keep talking about other concepts in this chapter.